All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Lesson 4, Scaled Relationships. You'll also notice that tomorrow and Thursday we'll be taking our NWEA or MAP test to see where you guys are at. Math ability wise, we have a little window that we have to take that test. If you have already taken that in a different class or you get done early, please bring something else to work on. Okay, so a book to read or another class is perfectly fine. You can go on your iPads if you'd like, just no games, obviously, that entire hour. So find something educational to do. All right, so go ahead and bring that with starting tomorrow. I'm going to give us 2 days so you are not rushed for that. But page 31 says they are scaled copies, so we know that is a fact. Name 2 pairs of corresponding angles. And what can you say about the sizes of these angles? So can somebody give me 1 pair of corresponding angles that are the same in the 2 pictures? Kellen.
BCB and HGF.
Did you say BCD? DCB. So DCB is here, so we got to name it in the same order. And what'd you say?
HGF.
That would be 1 pair. It does say I need to name 2. Lauren can give me another angle. Okay, so give me something that corresponds to LKJ. H, G, and F again. Okay, again, you can list other ones. Make sure the letters are in the same order. What can you say about the sizes of these angles? Boston. They're equal. The angles are equal. Remember, they're a scaled copy. Bigger or smaller does not affect the angles. Angles are the same. Number 2, check your prediction by measuring at least 1 pair of corresponding angles using a protractor. You do not have a protractor with you, I assume. But let's have a guess of what that angle is. And I'll tell you what it should measure. Or we can just pick any angle, I guess. So these top 3 angles, those are the ones that you guys mentioned the entire time. DCB, HGF, LKJ. Have a guess of what that angle is. 90 degrees is exactly right. Okay, they'll turn out to be 90 degrees approximately. And they do look like right angles on that previous page. All right, question number 2. Sophia, would you read question 2, please? What's on top of that?
Each of these polygons is a scaled copy of the others. You already checked their corresponding.
All right, we checked their corresponding angles already. These are the same figures from the previous page. Number 1, Maverick. The side lengths, starting with that, please.
Yeah, I'm reading it.
Yep.
Okay. 2 side lengths of the polygons are hard to tell from the grid, but there are other corresponding distances that are easier to compare. Identify the distances in the other two polygons that correspond to DB and AC and record them in the table.
All right, so we've already talked about how these angles are tough to measure, these slanted lines, right? We'd have to measure up and over. Okay, now if you measure up and over on this one, you know, how far is this little distance? Is that a quarter? Is that a half? So it says there's other things we can measure when we have shapes like this. So if you look at A, B, C, D here, it says, how far is DB? That's a distance across from point A to point B. In this case, D to B. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The distance is 4 across there. That's where DB equals 4 is coming from. AC, that's the height. How far are those 2 points apart? and they just counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's where that number comes from. So why don't you actually let's do one together. E, F, G, H. So which one corresponds to DB? On this figure, which side corresponds to DB? Faith.
HF.
HF is correct. And how far is it from H to F? 6. You're just counting. Which one corresponds to AC? Read.
A to C would be E to G.
Yes. And how far is E to G?
8.
8.
Think so.
Anybody confirm 8? Agree with it? No? 9 is what I get as well. Okay, looking at the last polygon. Which letters correspond to DB? Sophia. LJ, and how far is that? 2. And corresponding to AC, Molly? IK. Cameron, how far is IK? 3. All right. Question number 2 on the next page says, pause here so your teacher can review your work. We did it together. Look at the values in a table. What do you notice? Okay, compared to this one, how much bigger is this guy by looking at your numbers? Jonas. 1.5 times bigger. 4 times 1.5 is 6. 6 times 1.5 is 9. 1.5 times bigger. How about going from the big one to the little one? Connor?
2.
Divided by 2, it's half as big. Times a half, times a half. How about going from the big one to the small one? So looking at these numbers. Divide by 3, a third is big. Times a third, very good. All right, question 3, looking at the W's. The larger figure is a scaled copy of the smaller figure. Brody, would you read question A for me, please?
The larger figure, if A, E equals 4, how long is the corresponding distance in the second figure? Explain or show your reason.
All right, so I got to figure out how much bigger the big W is compared to the smaller. Well, the only two sides I know are 6 and 15. 6 times what is 15? Now, if you can't see that, you have to take 15 divided by 6 to tell me how many times bigger it is. So how many times does 6 go into 15? 2. 6 into 30 is 5. So if you ever can't see it, you just divide it out. Now I know this big one is 2.5 times bigger than the small one. Brody Hagen. So if A is 4, how far would HL be?
Ten.
10. How'd you get that? You took 4 times 2.5. Because it's 2.5 times bigger that way. Next one, IK is 5. What's the corresponding distance on BD? It's going to be bigger or smaller? Should be smaller. So do you think I multiply by 2.5? What do you think? Divide by 2.5. Do you know how many 2.5s go into 5? 2. Okay, so I multiplied by 2.5 going from small to big. I divide by 2.5 going from big to small. Okay, next question. Maya says the polygons are scaled copies, but Noah disagrees. Do you agree with either of them? Okay, so let's take a peek at the length going across. X to Y. 2, 4 is 6. Up and down is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. That was from N to J. Z to C is 4. And up and down is 6. So the question is, are they scaled copies of each other? Boston, what do you think?
No,
Why?
because the larger one on the top, from X to N only goes up 1, and it should go up 2.
Okay. Should go up 1 or 2, is that what you meant? This way you're counting?
Yeah.
Okay. Are the sides proportional? You were checking the 1 and 2, and you notice here it's 1 and 1. So he's saying the sides are not proportional. I would agree with that. Sides are not proportional. He was looking at the outsides here. How about the angles? Would you say the angles are the same? Look at angle X and Z. Do they look exactly the same? I would say not. So if you just notice that, you could already say that they are not scaled copies. Question number 2. Record the following distances. We kind of already did that. X and Y, Z and C, JN. Oh, JN was 9. SH was 6, so we already put that in there. Okay, I'm going to just show you what the measurements of the angles were. Again, you don't have a protractor, so I'm not concerned about it. But you can see 2 of the angles were the same, and 2 of them were different. So if you notice the angles are different, if there's one angle different, guys, they cannot be scaled copies. Okay, question 4. Now that you know the angles are different, would that change your mind? I would say yes. If you didn't see that, angles different means no scaled copies. Means they cannot be. All right, and the last question. Scaled copy or not? So the first thing, I think the easiest thing is to always check angles. Are the angles all the same? Okay, then we can check sides. I think angles are easier. We can just look at it. Now, are the sides proportional? Reed, what do you think?
I was actually going to ask if I could use the bathroom.
Bell's going to ring in a couple minutes here, and then you'll be able to.
No, because on the top it goes 2 to 1, but then on the sides it goes 4 to 3, and it should go 4 to 2.
All right, so if you go from, let's go from big to small. Half is big, right? Half of 4 is not 3. Half of 6 is not 4. So do you agree with either of them? Kieran says they are scaled copies. Lynn disagrees. So I agree with Lynn. And I'm just going to say sides are not proportional. They all should be half as big as the one on the left, and they are not. Okay, I want to give you a little time to work today, so we are going to just skip the "Are you ready" there. The birds on the next page. Do you see anything that's super obvious of why those are not scaled copies?
The bird on the right is distorted.
Distorted, simple as that. It doesn't look the same as the one on the left. Okay, if you wanted to get fancy, you could talk about the angles of the feet or the tail. They're different, but definitely not a scaled copy. Okay, summary on page 36 and 37. And your homework, guys, on page 38, circle the word "all" for number 1, please. Number 2 says explain. Please do that. Question number 3 is talking about those figures. Draw a little arrow there on bottom page 39 so you do not forget. Number 4 on the next page. So again, 4 questions. And you have the rest of the hour